this video is going to be looking at averages. And the measures of average we're going to be looking at today are the mode, median, and mean. We're also going to be looking at the range. This is not an average, despite what some people may have been taught in the past, but it is linked to them. It usually occurs on the same sort of question. So let's look at the first one of these, which is the mode. This is probably the simplest of the measures of average, and it's probably the one that's used the least. It's less useful, and it's very difficult to interpret sometimes, but occasionally it will ask you to calculate the mode. So the mode is the number that occurs most frequently. Quite straightforward, nothing too complicated about it. So if we look at an example, 12 people were asked to give a rating out of 10 of a fragrance and hand wash. And these were the scores out of 10 they gave this hand wash. Now the best way to work out the mode, i.e. the most common score, is to put them in order. It makes it a lot easier to spot the mode, put in order, because it makes it a lot easier to count the different numbers. So we've got 4 3s, 3 4s, and 5 6s. So in this case, give for example, 6 is the most common number, therefore 6 is the mode. Let's look at a slightly different example. This time, say 12 people as before were asked to give a rating out of 10 how clean the hand wash made their hands feel. And these were the scores that they gave. So what was the mode score out of those scores? So again, put the numbers in order. Makes it easy to see. But this time, you can see we've got 4 6s and 4 9s. Now this can happen with the mode. It's the only measure of the average where you can have more than one answer. So in this case, the mode is both 6 and 9. When you work out the median or the mean, there's only one value to be. But the mode can be any number of numbers, which is one of the reasons why it's less useful than the other two. You can actually have the mode being every single number in your data set. If you've just got one of each number, then the mode is every single number in your data set, and that tells us nothing. So the next measure of average is the median. The median is the middle value of a set of numbers once the data has been ordered, and that's key that the data is in order. So let's look at another example. This time 11 people were asked to give a rating out of 10 for the design of a hand wash bottle. These are the scores out of 10 that we got. So we need to put them in order. That's key for median. Not only does it make it more useful like it does in the mode, but it's essential. So those are the same numbers, but this time in order. And we can see the number in the middle there with 5 either side is 7. So the mode of those numbers, so the median, of those numbers in this case was 7. Now we had an odd number of numbers this time, that makes working out the median easier. But what happens if we had an even number of numbers? So on this particular example, we've got the same group as before. They were also asked to rate the colour of the hand wash. However, one person's scores missed off, so we've only got 10 people's scores, not 11 this time. Those were the scores that we gave out of 10. Again, put them in order, as we get. This time we don't have a number in the middle. We have 2 numbers either side of the middle, 3 and a 4. So the middle number in this particular example is a number that lies exactly in between those 2 numbers, in between the 2 middle values. So it's quite straightforward in this case. 3.5 is going to be the middle between 3 and 4. Sometimes you can see it if the numbers are close together, but sometimes if the numbers are miles apart, it can be quite complicated to work out the middle. So the best way of doing it is to simply add them together and then divide by 2. In a sense, work out the mean of those 2 numbers, and we'll see that's how you work out the mean in the next example. So in our case, the median is 3.5. 3.5, 3.5 lies midway between 3 and 4. So finally, on to the last measure, average. This is probably the most common form of average, and this is the one when people say average, this is generally the one that they mean. They mean the mean. But to find out the mean, you add them all up and you divide them by how many numbers you've got. So, on our example, these are the goals for our football team. If you add up all those numbers, you get 30. There was 10 numbers, so 10 matches. So you divide 30 by 10, you get 3. So on this occasion, the mean number of goals scored by this team was 3. Which, if you look at the data, you kind of expect that the mean should lie somewhere in the middle. It's not exactly in the middle, it's not the median, but you'd hope to have about half the numbers above the mean and half below. It's a good way of judging when you've done it correctly. If you're getting a number that's above or below the data, i.e. if you get a number that's above 5 for this particular example, then you're doing wrong. You can't have a mean that's higher than all the numbers in the data set. It must be at least as big as the biggest number. So very often you get asked, especially on level 2 papers, why we've chosen to use the mean. But the reason we've chosen to use the mean is that it's generally the best measure because it uses all the data. It's the only form of average where every single number is used in calculation. For the median, the only numbers that are used are the ones in the middle. The rest of it is ignored. In the mode, the only numbers that are used is the most common that you get the rest of it. But the mean uses all the data. However, it's not always the best to use in all circumstances. I'm going to show you an example now of where the mean is probably not the best measure of average. So for this particular example, the ages of everyone in the school classroom, including the teacher, the results are below. So we've got ages of everyone in the classroom, including the teacher. So if we look at the mean of those numbers, we add them all up, we get 200. There are 10 people, so divide that by 10, so that gives us a mean of 20. Now, one of the reasons we calculate an average is to give a value that is representative of the data, i.e. one number that we use to represent the entire data set. But in this case, 20 is not a good representation of this data. Everybody except one person is younger than that, and no one's 20, so it's not a good representation. It's because that 50, teacher's age, is what we call skewing the data. That often happens where one or two values are completely different from all the others, and in statistical terms this is what's known as an outlier. So this is data point that's completely different from all the others. It's almost from a different data set, it bears no resemblance to the other ones. It's the same thing that would happen if you worked out the average salary of a group of people, and then you took the average salary of that same group of people, but you added Bill Gates to that. You get an average salary in millions of dollars, whereas in real life, only one person in that group would be earning more than that. So why do we use the median? Well, the median solves the problem of outliers. Although the mean is generally the best, sometimes when we've got outliers, the median gives a better result for the mean. And using the median as an average helps to remove the disproportionate effect of outliers. So looking at the same data before, it's in the classroom. To work out the median, we put it in order. Let's put it in order. And we see there are two middle values of 17. As both middle values are the same number, then that's just the median. It's the middle between 17 and 17 is of course 17. So in this case, the median of the data is 17, and that's a much better representative data. 17 because it's a lot more closely represents the spread of the ages in that classroom. Therefore, in this case, the median is better than the mean, because we've got that outlier of 15. To go on to range, range is quite a simple calculation. It's simply the difference between the biggest and the smallest numbers in a set of data. So, looking at a particular example, player A, you receive the following scores out of 10 for his last 10 football matches. So, the scores in the newspaper, he got these scores out of 10 for his last 10 games. So, the smallest number is 2, the biggest number, which is 10. So his range is the difference between 10 and 2, which is 10 minus 2, which is 8. So the range in this case is 8. quite straightforward. However, sometimes we're asked to interpret what the range tells us. And now this is not as obvious as the average. If you're looking to interpret average, and obviously a high average means the data is high. That's a good thing. If you're talking about scores in a test, then a high average is good. If you're talking about times in a race, then obviously this time a low average is good. So a low time is better for a race. You always have to look at the context of the data. But the range is different for that. High range doesn't mean the values are high. Let's demonstrate this with another example. So, if we compare that football player from the previous example, which we had player A, those were his scores. We've got a different player this time, player B. And he played for the same team, and he got those scores for the last 10 matches. We'd already worked out the range for player A being 8, and we need to work out the range for player B. Well, the highest score was 8, the lowest was 7, so his mean was just 1. So we had to describe the respective performances of the two players. We might describe player B's mean more consistent. He doesn't get the 10s or the 9s of player A, but even on his bad day, he's still getting 7, whereas player A's on his bad day, he's getting 2 or 3 out of 10, which is, he must be invisible in those games. So this shows that player B is more consistent, and the low range shows that. Range is a measure of consistency or similarity between the data, i.e. the spread of the data, how it differs from the biggest to the smallest. So the lower the range, the more similar or consistent the data set is. It's easier to predict something in the lower range. If you look at those two players, if you ask to predict what the player will get in the next game, you'd probably have a much better chance of predicting what player B will get. You probably have a 50-50 chance of 7 or an 8. But player A, you pick any number between 2 and 10 for his score. So range measures consistency in a data set. So on to the final bit of this. This is for level 2 only. It's not something that's covered in level 1. But sometimes, when we're looking at questions about the mean, we're not asked to actually calculate the mean. We're asked to calculate a missing value from our set of data after we've been given what the mean is. So let's look at an example. So we've got number of competitors in the marathon in recent years. We've got 3 years worth of competitors from 2010 to 2012. The mean number of competitors over a 4-year period between 2010 and 2013 is 595. What was the number of competitors for 2013? We don't have that number, but we do know the mean of that year plus the previous 3 years is 595. So how do we calculate that missing value, that missing year? We have the mean, but we're missing parts of the data that leads to that. So calculating the mean involves adding up all the numbers and then dividing by the numbers. We all know that. So, but this time we're missing one of those numbers. So to write it out, we can't actually complete it, we can write it out. Where the values for 3 previous years, 412, 585, 658, plus the number that we don't know, and we use a question mark for that to indicate the missing value for 2013. If we added up all those 4 numbers and divided those 4 numbers by 4, we would get 595, which was our answer of the mean. So let's make this less bit less complicated by doing what we can do. We can add up the 3 values that we do know: 4, 12, 585, 658, which gives us 1655. So we've got a slightly easier calculation there. So we know that 1655 plus our missing value divided by 4 equals 594. But we know that whatever 1655 plus our missing value is, we know that if we divided that number by 4, then the answer would be 595. That must mean that 155, 1655 plus our missing number is 4 times the size 595. So when we're dividing it by 4, we get 595. So we know that whatever that value is must be 595 times by 4. It's the reason we do reverse calculations on tests, so we can see what happens when we go backwards. This is what we're doing whenever we're going backwards. So if we times 595 by 4, it gives us 2380. So now we can say that 1655 plus our missing value equals 2380. So whatever we add to 1655 must give us 2380. So that's the same as saying, well, let's take 2380 and take off 1655. Whatever's left must be the missing value. So in this case, it's 725. So 725 must be that question mark value. And we can check that by treating that as our fourth number and just working out the mean of those four numbers. And if we get 595, we know we're correct. So our missing value for 2013 must be 725. We check that back, looking back into the table and working this out. So if we take the 4 years, the data for 4 years, 412, 585, 658, 725. If we add those all up, we get 2380. I think we can see where this is going. That was the number we got before. And if we divide that by 4, we do get 595, which is the mean that we were given initially, which is the correct answer in this case.